call of the gentle giant of the horse world has brought us to Whitby Island. It's just off the coast of Seattle, Washington. And it's here where a lot of hard work and determination is making a dream come true for Bob and Bonnie Halstead. The dream? Well, come and take a walk with me down Percheron Lane.
It was really initially Bob's idea to get the drafts. He used to feed draft horses when he was a young man. That was his dream, and I thought, wow, that would be fun. So
sooner or later, you're not going to see draft horse shows unless you go to like the Amish country and watch them playing around with them out in the fields. You just don't see them showing anymore. I don't think it's going to be around too much longer. So I'm going to hang on to it as long as I can.
For Bob and Bonnie, their Percherons are more than just horses. They're family. And like family, they're expected to help out in the daily chores, especially when it's haying season. And like their own children, they have gotten to know the character of each one, and they are convinced that there is nothing better than a Percheron.
I would much rather work with a large animal than a Shetland pony. Much nicer animal. They just are easygoing. They want to please you, and they're just, I think the bigger the animal, the calmer, easygoing they are. So they intimidate a lot of people. When I'm out with my carriage, people come up and they're definitely afraid of them. You know, they don't even want to get close. They're just afraid to get close, like they'll bite them. They don't bite, or step on them. I'm not sure. I've had people come up who have never touched a horse. To me, it's just a thrill to have these people come up and say, wow, what a beautiful animal. Wow, can I please touch your horse? So real rewarding.
It's what the attachment is to them is, just the rush of being able to drive them. That's the part I like most of all, is being able to control a 2,000-pound animal and being able to just make it do whatever you want it to do. That's so awesome. I mean, you can't. And knowing any minute that he knows he's big enough to where he can just overpower you, take off. Any minute. You're not a teamster until you've had your runaways.
Oh. Have you had lots of runaways?
Oh, I've had my fair share.
Is it scary?
When I first got these two, well, heck yes, it's scary. Oops. Yeah, you don't know when they're going to stop. You just don't know when they're going to stop. That's the scary part.
How old are they when you finally hook them up, or how long does it take to train each one of them? Is it varying degrees?
Well, a lot of people say 2 years old is when you can hook them up and start working them. A lot of people like working them as soon as they fall out of the ground. I have one up here that's nicked. Again, I'm back to raising your own. They're a little more docile when you start them out at a younger age, as soon as they drop. But I like working them right when they're 3. I like to see the height. I like to know what the conformation is, or why spend my time on it. I'm looking for show horses, but although I can make any of them out of workhorses, like today we'll make these 2 out of workhorses when we hitch them up. But it's always easy to make them into a workhorse. But the age group, I like them at 3. I bought these 2 at 3. The ones from Canada, I knew what I was buying. I knew their size, and I knew how they were going to act, and I knew they were easy breakers, and it's just worked out just great for me.
And worked out great it has. In just a few years, Bob and Bonnie have realized many of their dreams of team driving and have the ribbons to prove it. But to keep a team of horses on the road and in competition is very expensive. Just one set of harnesses can cost as much as $20,000 apiece. And with one horse eating as much as 1 bale of hay a day, it's no wonder these 2 are having a tough time keeping their dream alive.
The people that are doing it now I don't know how they're hanging on. It's awful expensive to go out and show horses. We've cut a lot of shows this year because of the expense. And I just don't know how they can keep going and doing it. A lot of sponsors, a lot of them have sponsors. It's hard to get sponsors. We're looking for sponsors right now. Each show is quite a tremendous amount of money to get there and get set up, because you got to have a person per horse is what it is. So if you got 6 horses, you got 6 people. So 6 people to take care of 6 people for a week is, you don't think it's expensive. Well, try to groom and do these horses and go to the shows. It's just a dream. It's a hobby, just like anything else. You spend money in a hobby, right? Usually that's what you spend all your money in, is a hobby. So that's why I got them, and I just don't want it to die out yet.
Every once in a while we'll say, let's just quit, let's just sell the horses, and let's cut back. And then we'll go to another show and it's like, well, why don't we buy 2 more horses and let's get better, we need to replace these 2. It just gets in your blood. It does. No, we wouldn't quit.
Don't go away. When we return, Bonnie and her favorite horse, Josephine, take me to a wedding. The old-fashioned way. Well, today is my lucky day. It just happens that Bonnie and her horse Josephine are on their way to a wedding. Don't you just love a wedding? Bonnie has been doing this carriage business for some time, and it's one of the ways to help pay the bills for their hobby. It also gave me the opportunity to see firsthand just how popular these Percherons are with the general public. Josephine, dressed up in her Sunday best, was a sight to see. Everyone in attendance just oohed and awed as the horse-drawn carriage approached. There was just something so majestic about this big black horse. So powerful, yet gentle. It just looked so perfect. It was also true what Bonnie told me earlier about people being drawn to her horses. No sooner was the wedding over that the bride's mother came out and gave Josephine a present of carrots and apples for a job well done. And to prove how unresistible these big horses are, she just couldn't leave without giving Josephine a little affection. Now, how many horses get that type of treatment?
Yeah, what a beautiful horse you are. Yes, you are. You're just as beautiful as my daughter.
So with the wedding over, Josephine and Bonnie proudly drove off into the sunset with the newlyweds. It was then and there, with this wonderful image in my mind, I decided to ask Bob and Bonnie to teach me to drive.
So I guess I'm going to get a lesson on how to drive.
You're going to get a lesson. Okay, here you have lines. These lines are 3/4 inch. Some lines are wider, a little harder for a woman to hold, so this is a real comfortable size. Okay, I'm going to turn to the right. And watch my hand. Come G, step G. See how I give with this hand, I pull with this one. Now I want to straighten out, I straighten my hands. Turn, come G.
And if you want a horse to come this way when it turns, you don't want a horse to turn its head and then come that way, because what'll happen is they'll start banging against that pole. And what'll happen after they start banging against that pole, they get pole fright. You'll never get them up to against that pole. So I try to keep their heads as straight as possible. If they don't turn when I do give them a little nudge, I just blow them another kiss and they'll step over that way. In other words, you'll be all right.
You'll be just
Okay, you
fine.
guys, now.
Oh, it's kind of daunting to think that you were in charge of such large animals. But after I got rid of my jitters, it didn't take me too long to get the hang of it. And I'll tell you, the thrill of working with such a wonderful horse was unbelievable. And I could see how someone could get completely hooked.
with driving, hey, when I'm 80 years old, I can still be up there driving, even if I can't walk. Where, you know, if I, you know, I might not be able to ride one then, but I can sure drive one. So.
In our generation nowadays, do you think they like animals? No, they like drugs, war, and all the other stuff. I'd rather stay clean and love these guys, man.
Now that was good fun. I got to go to a wedding. I got to drive a team of horses. I never thought I was going to ever in my life drive a team of horses. Got to go for a carriage ride. Hey, I even got to do a little haying. But I learnt, most importantly, that these animals are the gentle giants that everyone thinks they are. They're amazing. They're just majestic and gentle. But you know what? Something else I learnt, through hard work and determination, your dreams can come true.
For nearly 125 years, the RCMP's musical ride has been a tradition and a trademark of this world-famous police force. The sight of blazing red tunics astride their pitch-black horses is one you'll never forget. The history of the ride goes back to 1876, when it was used by the then Northwest Mounted Police as a way to relieve the monotony of daily equine training. The history of the horse and the Mounties is a long and legendary one. The horse was an integral part of their basic training and active in police work with the Northwest Mounted Police and the RCMP until 1936.
In its 124-year history, the musical ride has performed all over the world. They have participated in coronations of royalty and every other conceivable celebration, large and small. Without fail, crowds are left in awe as they witness the extraordinary skill of horse and rider executing flawlessly all the complex rudiments that make up the celebrated musical ride.
One horse in particular became a superstar, and at 29 was the oldest living horse with the RCMP musical ride. His name was Lucky. Lucky became more than just another horse in the famed ride. He became an ambassador of the force itself.
Lucky was a very special horse to me because he not only made me look like $1 million, he was also the type of horse that showed an awful lot of kindness to especially children. One of our tours we did in Ontario in the early 90s where we were showing the benefit of crippled children. As the OC's charger, I had to ride up to the child to give him the salute, to ask him permission to carry on with the ride. It's a formality we do before every ride. And on this special occasion, Lucky and I rode up to this little child, crippled child, and at the last moment I said to myself, oh, I think maybe we're too close. But as we got there, Lucky just bent his head down, he pulled on his ring, he bent his head down and he reached down to the child, which made the child very happy because the little girl just reached up and patted his nose. And to me, that was a very special moment with Lucky.
And Lucky was also active in extracurricular events with the team.
One of the fun things we did with Lucky is when we were on tour in the 90s, we used Lucky as a base runner for our softball team. We would put Lucky on first base after we hit a ball, and Lucky would then run the bases with us. Of course, there was a member on the back riding him through the bases, and on all occasions, I got to say, Lucky scored points because nobody had the guts from the other team to reach out and try to touch him.
Lucky now starts another tradition on the Wall of Honor.
On September the 19th, one of the saddest days here for many of us because Lucky was very near and dear to our hearts. Lucky was turned out in the paddock as he was regularly to get some fresh air, and he died peacefully in his sleep just before midnight. We used to have what we called the Wall of Honor, and all the horses' names, the plaques from their stalls, would go on this Wall of Honor to show that they had served on the musical ride. Since we moved into this new stable several years ago, we hadn't reinstituted the Wall of Honor. But we are going to be reinstituting the Wall of Honor, and Lucky's nameplate will be the first one that goes on the wall in memory of such a great horse.
Lucky, the RCMP Musical Ride's legendary charger.
We call the demonstration the visible horse, sort of anatomy in motion, because we have his bones painted on one side and the muscle groups painted over the bones on the other. And it shows how the muscles move the bones, and it lets you see how the anatomy works in action. And we're particularly interested in helping horse owners understand what is good movement for a horse. Good movement makes him stronger, easier to ride, sounder. And bad movement, if he uses himself poorly, then he can get a sore back, he moves badly, they never reach their potential, and it's ugly and damaging and hard to ride. Well, we've got all the major muscle groups, not all the superficial muscles, but the muscles back here at the hindquarters, at the front of his hindquarters, are the ones that pick up his hind leg and swing it forward under his body. We call that engagement, and that's what gives the horse his power. And then the ones in pink and red and orange painted around the back of his hindquarters are the ones that straighten his hind leg and push his whole body forward once that hind leg's on the ground. And they tie into the longest muscles of his back, the ones painted in pink and yellow, and the big long orange one that come down the side. And they tie into the muscles on the top of his neck. So you could say he has a chain of muscle from his hind leg over his butt, through his back, and up along the top of the neck. And that chain of muscle should ripple and stretch every time he takes a stride. The muscles that run down the side of the neck and the underside of the neck, these, by the way, actually connect to his tongue. So you could say his tongue and the muscles at the back of his throat actually connect his mouth to his front legs. And those travel on down. We have the abdominals that run from the breastbone all the way back to the pelvis, and the psoas muscles that run from the underside of his back to his hind legs, and altogether those make up what we call the circle of muscles. And a horse should use that circle of muscles in harmony so that one set doesn't get overused and one set doesn't get left out of the picture. And when he does that, he's moving well, whatever kind of horse he happens to be.
Complete rider letters.
Debbie Moore from Peachland, British Columbia would like to ask Jeanette a question. Her question is, my horse is eating bark off the trees. I'm worried there might be something missing from his diet. And won't all of that bark make him sick?
Well, your horses aren't the only ones that eat trees, or fence posts, or fences, whatever's available in the paddock. Why do horses chew on trees, on fences? It's because, one, they're bored. Two, perhaps there's a lack of roughage in their diet. For the boredom, other than making sure they have a big exercise area and they get enough exercise, there's not much you can do. You can't spend the whole day entertaining them. Roughage, try to make sure that they have access to good quality roughage all the time. That will spare your trees. It won't save them, it'll spare them. If you think that your horse is a little too fat to be continually feeding a lot of hay, think about supplementing through the day in their exercise areas with straw. If they've got water and they're on good quality feed, the straw will just allow them to fulfill that need to eat 12 hours a day. It's where a horse came from, can't help it, likes to eat. I hope that's alleviated your worries about the bark eating and given you some reasonable suggestions on how to control their bark eating. For the Complete Rider, this is Jeanette Cooper.